So we're going to create and we're going to configure an IPsec rule, and we're going to test it. So I have client 1 here, which is my Windows. I have client 1 here, which is my Windows 8.1, and I have client 2, which is my Windows 8.1 as well. This is actually a pro version. Okay. The first thing we're going to do is to try to see if we can ping each other, right? So I'm going to try to go to the command prompt. I'm going to type CMD. I'm going to click on command prompt. Then I'm going to ping my remote computer, which is this. It's 192.168.5.109. I can see it's replying. Okay, I'm going to go in here, do the same thing. CMD, ping 192.168.5.112. I can see as well as also replying. Is that not correct? Okay. Now we're going to create a policy for IPsec, whereby we want to force certain computers, we want to isolate this computer right now, so that only computers who have its policy can be able to run that rule. Are we together? Okay. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go to search, because it's faster, firewall. And I'll click advanced settings. So instead of going to inbound or outbound, this time we are actually using connection security what? Rule. So we call it connection security rule. Meaning in order for two computers to connect, they need to follow a specific what? Security what? Policy. Are we together? So I'm going to right click now. I'm going to say new rule. Are we together? Now, based on the manual, it says we should select this. The rule we should take is the isolation rule. Require authentication for inbound connections. Do you guys remember the connection, the IPsec policies, the 3 policies? Requests and required. Is that not correct? Remember, request means that if the user does not have the permission, it's fine. It should still bypass. It can be bypassed. But when we say require, it's more harsh. It means that if the computer does not have that policy, the connection will be what? Denied. Is that not correct? Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to select isolation. Now, if you notice here, it says isolation. It restricts connections based on what? It restricts connection based on authentication what? Criteria, such as domain membership or health status. So, based on authentication criteria, what is a criteria of my authentication? The user is required to have what? An authentication mechanism when doing what? An outbound connection. So I'm going to select isolation. The rest of them says authentication exemption, server to server if you want to authenticate to specific computers. You have tunnels if you want to use tunnels for your authentication, like layer 2 tunneling protocols, HID, accessible authentication protocols, and things like that. Then, of course, custom rule, if you want to create a custom rule that is not part of this predefined. So I'm going to click on isolation. Next. Now, according to our lab, we are asked to what? Require what? Authentication for inbound and request authentication for what? For what? Outbound. And if you notice here, it says inbound connection must be authenticated to be what? Allowed. But outbound connections are authenticated whenever possible, but authentication is not what? Required. So you see, request is more slim, yeah, is more weaker. Are you getting me? So we're going to take the second option according to our lab. We'll click next. According to the lab, it says we should use computer and user what? Kerberos version what? 5. So click on computer and user Kerberos version 5. Okay, so I'm going to click next. Now, if you notice here, it says restrict communication to connections from domain joined users and what? Provide identity information for authorized specific users and computers in the inbound and what? Outbound rules. Now, I think I see the reason why in the morning it didn't work. You see, the user on this computer is called Peter, and what I'm supposed to do on this other computer, I'm supposed to create the same account here on my next computer system, which is Peter as well. Are you getting me? With the password. So Peter will be logged on. But in this case, if you had a domain joined computer, because every computer will be part of the same domain. So even though I log in, I'm also part of the domain. So it will authenticate me based on that. I think that was when we had the issues. But let me just go through the wizard so that I can explain how it works. I'll click next. Now this is where you specify what profile you want to use. So we'll just accept the default. And we give it a name. The name is said authenticate what? Authenticate what? All what? Inbound what? Connections, right? Okay, that's how you name it. And if there's a section in the company's policy, let's say it's a section in the company's policy manual. Let's say section 5, section 6, we can come here and put it in here. Just a description. So I'm going to click finish. And that is the policy. The policy has been set up. Okay. Now, let's try to go and ping this computer from this computer. Let's try it again. What is happening now? It's timing out, right? Because it requires authentication for computer and Kerberos for what? Inbound connection, right? And this one is trying to do an inbound connection. Is that not correct? Now, if you come in here, if I come here and say ping, let's see. Okay, it's replying. Can you see it's replying? Huh? Yeah, this cannot, because you saw there was a timeout first because we said request. So it tried to find out if there's what? Any policy like that. So then the next step was to what? Ping the system. So guys, that is how the connection works. Now let's go back to task 2. Task 3 says we should use a PowerShell to create the rule. I'm going to type it now, but I did it with my Windows 7. It didn't work. But one of my students did it with his Windows 8. So I'm going to try it now. So just watch me what I do. The reason is because we're using Windows 8 computer systems, okay? So I'm going to type it now. I'm just going to wipe out the rest of the rule. I'm going to start from the beginning. I'm going to run it as an administrator. So I'm going to go to my PowerShell. I'm going to go to PowerShell. I'm going to right click and say run as administrator. Okay, and the policy says it's new, just a minute, it's new dash net IPsec rule IPsec rule space dash display name space bracket open double hyphen authenticates all inbound connections close double hyphen space dash inbound security, space require, space dash outbound, security, space request, space dash face one of thing sets computer Kerberos space dash face 2 of thing sets user Kerberos. Okay, we press enter and let's see, it's set up. It said it was done successfully. Now, how do we confirm that? I can go to my Windows Firewall, click on Advanced Settings. If I go to Connection Security Rule, bingo, the rule is there. As good as that, guys. That's the power of PowerShell. Huh? Uses noun and verb, right? Now, if you notice there, after that rule, the next step is to go to the description there. Double click on this. Where it says description, we are expected to type requires inbound authentication. Then we come back and click OK. Sorry. Now my screen, the disadvantage of my screen now, so let me scroll down. Let me just press enter. Because the view is a little bit okay, that's okay, something is going wrong. It's losing communication. So let's try. Okay, I think it's been affected by this man now. Yeah, because of the rule, yeah, the remote desktop connection is now affected. Huh? So I'm just going to try to see as it's both set up on both ends. I'll go to my computer now. If I try to ping 109, which is the remote computer of the Windows 8, now you notice there will be a timeout delay now. Did you notice it? Now, like I said before, that is how to set it up in a normal environment. The only problem we are having here is that these two computers are on two different work groups. Are you getting me? They are not on a domain computer system. So because we said computer and user, so it needed to authenticate a user and what? A computer system. Are we together? But let me try something else. Let me pause this now. That will be the end for now. Just let me try. Did you see it? It's going through. Did you see the authentication mechanism? Yeah, it's going through now. Now, if I come also here and I ping, if I go now to, if I go over here as well and try to ping the same computer system of 192.112, if I press enter, it's also replying as well. Are you getting me? Now, this is actually what they call the quick mode. This actually is used to monitor. Are you seeing the monitoring? It's telling you that this was the local IP address and the remote IP address was 109. So you can actually monitor who was trying to connect. And it tells you what type of connection you're using. You're using a what? A pre-shared what? A pre-shared key. Are we together? Now let me try Windows 7. Windows 7, let me try to do remote desktop connection. Okay, it's still delaying. Let me try to ping the computer. CMD. Ping 192.168.5.109 is also what? It's also not replying. Is that not correct? Okay, let's try the pre-shared key with the firewall settings. Let's try the firewall settings. Use recommended settings. Okay, I just want to be sure that wasn't affecting it. Okay, we go to advanced security settings, connection rules. We create a new rule, isolation. We click on next, require authentication, advanced, customize. Then we select pre-shared key, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, what? 5. We click on OK. Next. And we say testing. So click finish. Okay, let's try it again now if it's going to reply. Wow. Is it replying? Exactly. Now that's the power of using IPsec. So let's do remote desktop connection. Let's see if it's going to work now. Bingo. That's it. So anything you want to access remotely will also be affected as well. Guys, that's it. Are we together? That's the power of IPsec. The reason we drifted from using computer user Kerberos is because the system needed to be joined to a domain, which we don't have now. So that is why I decided to take the second option, which is using a pre-shared key. You saw how I set up the connection, right? I had to come in, I had to go to connection rules. I had to change the authentication methods to advanced, customized. Then I came here and I added a pre-shared key. I can keep on adding as well. I can add another option. I can say use computer certificates. Are you getting me? I will browse the certificate. I will also do the same for every computer that will probably want to do remote connection to this computer. Make sure everybody have exactly the same copy. Now, what do we call this thing? We call it the security what? Association. Are we together? That's why you come to the main mode. You can see it there. Just a minute. Let me refresh. Okay, let me try to ping it again. Let's try to ping the computer. Supplying. Okay, let's come in here. That's it. So let's use Okay, this is a remote desktop. Is that not correct? So let's minimize the remote desktop. Let's use Windows to ping the other computer. It's also replying as well. Is that not correct? Now let me go back. Let me refresh. Can you see all the computers? It shows me exactly who is communicating with me. Are we together? And if you scroll down there, it tells you, okay, there's no encryption, and it tells you the protocol, they're using any protocol. So that's the computers, and it tells me exactly the name of the computer, the local IP address, and all of that. That's called monitoring. Are we together? Yeah. So, like I said, we did not use the computer and user Kerberos because our computer was not part of a domain. We used the pre-shared key, which we've tested now. You can see how it works. So if you want to make sure only the person, a specific user, or you want to make sure a specific user pings your computer or remotely connect your computer, you can use this method. Remember, I only just created 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can create a complicated key. Are you getting me? Something really complicated with plus, minus, symbols, characters. Are you getting me? So that it becomes very complex. Then you share it with your friend, or you ask them to bring their computer, you do the configuration, and that is it. It's secured. Any computer that does not have that policy, forget it. They won't be able to do anything. Are we together? Okay, so that's what I wanted to show you guys.